Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am Kristen Andre, sitting basically on the face of the sun this morning because I don't know what has happened with this time change, but we have this bright bulb sun coming in at me. So, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I am here with my co-host extraordinaire, the marvelous Miss Mendoza.
Top of the morning.
Who gets to be in the hot seat today.
Isaac's
already overlording us. Here's what we're talking about today, my friends. And then I'm going to tell you why. We are talking about kindness and chivalry today. And let me tell you why we're talking about kindness and chivalry. This has come up for me a few times in the past few weeks. Okay. And it's got my thoughts of thinking. And I've determined that I think I'm in the minority on this one. And I like to think I know what's going on. I'm down with the times. I'm up with things, but I've determined I'm pretty old school when it comes to chivalry and being kind to one another.
Okay.
And I feel like it's a dying art, and it's kind of pissing me off.
So, okay, I have a clarifying question on this.
Okay.
When you're in the minority, you mean in the minority in the sense that you appreciate chivalry, or in the minority in that you think it was dying and want it to come back and you're not seeing it?
I think I'm in the minority that both. I think I'm in the minority that appreciates it.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people agree. I think most people would agree it's dying.
Yes.
I want to see it come back. Agreed. And I think I'm in the minority that it's gonna.
Okay, well then we both are.
Okay. We had a minority we're at the minority table here. But here's what's been interesting with this whole thing is, and I'll tell you a couple examples that started it. The most recent was just this Sunday, where I had gone a little overzealous trip to the Home Depot. You know, you go to the Home Depot I went to buy a hose. I needed a hose, and one of the little windy up things you put the hose on.
Okay, that was not a
totally
hose
fine
in your car.
There was
in the back of your car.
It was not.
I saw your ID.
That's the problem. So I went to Home Depot. I was like, I need to buy a hose because there was a lot of pollen. I have really bad allergies. I'm still all a puff. But I went to Home Depot. I was like, gonna go buy a hose.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh, look at this deck box. This would be fantastic for my deck to put the cushions in to keep the pollen off.
Yep.
of them. So I was like, I'm gonna buy a deck box. Well, I drive a very small car. Fortunately, it's convertible, so the top can come down. So that's what happened is I bought some very large boxes. And I shop at Home Depot a lot. I will shout out to Home Depot. Every time I've been there, and my guy friends tease me about this, everybody comes to help. They always help me load stuff in the car. People are always helping me find things. Like customers are helping me too. People are very chivalrous at Home Depot. But then I got home. Like it took two people. We loaded it in the car. They were super nice. Then I get home. And I'm trying, now my neighbors, now I will say I did not ask for help. My neighbors were super, super nice. They are awesome. They would have totally come help me, but none of them were home. So I am pulling this box that is bigger than me out of the backseat of my car. I could do it. I'm kind of strong, but it was hard. I was maneuvering it. I was definitely struggling, and it was funny. I wasn't going to get injured, but it was funny, me trying to do this. 3 different people
walked by
and didn't in my neighborhood anything. And just kind of stared and didn't stop and didn't offer to help or didn't. So I don't know that that's kindness or chivalry. That's why I'm rolling it all together, because seriously, I mean, I know I didn't know them and I didn't ask because I didn't know them, but come on now. I mean, we were at the airport last week flying back from Lauderdale, and I had my daughter with me, the little one, Sassy. And Sassy was with me, and there was this older lady in front of us. It had to be in her 80s, and she had to put the suitcase on the conveyor belt. And I was like, and she was struggling, and I said, and Kennedy just looks at me, she goes, we need to help her. I said, well, let's ask. So I always ask. I don't just assume. Sure. I said, would you like any help? She goes, no, I've got it. And then she tried, and then she turned around and looked at us. She goes, yes. And it was sweet. But we offered. I didn't know her. She didn't know us. I could have just let her sit there. So that was kind of what I started thinking. So I thought of it as chivalry, maybe because I'm a female, and that's how I think, and I'm old school. But let's talk about kindness for a minute, because that might have been just more kindness. If you see somebody struggling, help them. Is it that freaking hard?
Yeah.
Like, is it really?
Yeah. And I like that you called out that you ask.
I did ask.
Because some people, I mean, they do. They just want to do it on their own, and that's really cool. But at least you offer that helping hand of,
yep,
looks like it's really heavy.
Yep.
Not that, because sometimes it's just that it's something's bulky and you just need two people to load something in and out or.
Well, but it also could be, it could be anything. It could be lifting stuff. It could, and this is where kind of kindness and chivalry, like the definition of kindness is just being nice, being polite, being just doing things that you think would be, I don't know, nice. So have we lost the niceness in the world?
I think we are not paying attention.
Not paying attention to what others are doing or what?
Yes, our surroundings. And you see it, and I'm going to be that person, so you can at me. Like, for one, we're on our phones all the time.
That's true.
People are crossing the street. Look,
That's true.
I don't trust drivers enough. I know I have the right of way if I'm crossing the road at the appropriate time, but I don't trust drivers to be paying attention, and that's going to be my fault if I step out and you're not paying attention when I should have been paying attention. So it's like we're not even looking at our surroundings. We're coming out, we're taking a phone call, we're on our phones, we're looking everywhere else, we're very distracted. And so part of it is because we run into people all the time too. That happens all the time where you're like bumping into someone or coming around the corner and your buggies run into one another or whatever the case is.
Well, and
we got a few people watching on LinkedIn and Instagram and say, good morning. And Tardik Mike says, fantastic.
Well, thank you, Mike. All right, so I agree. I think we've got to pay attention more, and thank you. And I'd love you guys' comments that are tuning in because, I just don't know. Paying attention's part of it, but when you're paying attention, just be kind. We're going to get into chivalry because that's I think it's a little bit different topic, and I think we need to talk about both of them because the kindness is just pay attention and do nice stuff and help people out when they need it.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about being a weakling. Now I did get part of what the comment was, and this was somebody that didn't know me and I don't know, and I responded back and it was being polite. They weren't cruel about it, but the message was basically like, well, you didn't plan properly and you came home with this big box and no help. So a lack of planning on your part, shouldn't be. I get that. I totally understand. I did not plan to go to Depot, but come frickin' on. Really? I know I should have pre-planned to buy a deck box, but I didn't. And sometimes that happens to me at Target. I go to buy a roll of toilet paper and I spend $300. We all have this curse at Target.
That person was probably one of the ones that was in your neighborhood and saw you struggling and walked by.
I don't know. I honestly didn't know the neighbors that walked by. I live in a pretty big neighborhood. There are a lot of people out walking. You guys, I'm calling you. And then like a bunch of my neighbors texted me later. It's like, I totally would have helped you. And I know they were like my three closest. I don't know a lot of my neighbors, but my three closest neighbors for sure. But none of them were home. I would have asked them, but none of them were home because I saw the cars. I'd actually texted one of them. They weren't home.
Okay. You know what the other problem is? We're too busy then.
Well, I don't know if it's busy.
I don't have time to help you.
I don't know if it's busy. I think it's people are worried about helping other people. Like worried about the repercussions. And my cousin had actually posted and said, she was broken down and no one stopped to help. And so it got me started thinking because, when Kara was saying that, my cousin, she goes, I was stopped on the side of the road with a head under my hood and no one stopped. And so then it got me thinking wait, is it because people are busy? They're nervous. They're afraid to help. When did helping others and being kind go by the wayside?
When you factor that in, I'm going to take this from me. If I was stranded on the side of the road, I agree that I would probably call someone in my family and whoever was available to come help me. I don't think I would want.
I wouldn't want a stranger only because I would be a little nervous unless I was like a big highway. But
exactly. So I do get that, and that and knowing that might deter someone from stopping to. help.
That was what popped into my head too, because I get that on a highway because you hear about people just getting all killed and everything, which would be bad. We don't want to know. So
yeah, but I feel like out in the open in the Home Depot parking lot where there are plenty of people and others can see you and you're alert, and you weren't getting in a car. I'm thinking I'm not helping somebody load stuff in the back of their van, right?
Yeah.
My mind just went to Silence of the Lambs where he had her help him load a couch in the back of the van, like, okay, don't be going and doing that. But or if it's your neighbors, like, your neighbors,
like Ted Bundy was that way too,
yeah, same, like where he had like a broken arm or leg or something, and he was like, hey, can you help me put this in my car? Like, yes, of course there's stuff like that happens, but
yeah, I think, all right, so here's the thing. I'm going to give you a pass if you're broken down on the side of the road, but let's take basic stuff like
opening the door.
Opening the door. Well, okay, we'll get to that.
Okay.
That's big. So the airport, helping people, if you see somebody struggling, don't just assume, but ask, could you use a hand? Okay, I always ask. So let's just go there, but let's shift it to the chivalry discussion a little bit, because you said opening a door, which I don't necessarily think is gender neutral. Like, I mean, I think it is gender neutral. I hold the door open. I held the door open coming into the building this morning for people. I think that's a normal thing to do.
Should be.
Right. Now, for those of you guys just letting the door slam on somebody, shame on you. It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're that late, get up earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where we're like too busy and not paying attention, I feel.
I think it is too. So let's talk about the legit chivalry for a minute, because this has come up for me a few times. And I had this discussion last week with I was down visiting my aunt and uncle. They're in their 60s, right? So I think the generations were different back then. And I'm in the middle, and then I had this discussion with Mia, our other co-host. So here's what was interesting to me is gone are the days of opening the car door for your date. And that meme I sent you yesterday, put the jacket down over the puddle and everything like that. I jump in the puddle. I like jumping in the puddles. I was out walking with a friend the other day on the Greenway. There was a big puddle, and he's looking at me like, do not jump in the puddle. And I really wanted to jump in the puddle because there was a guy I wanted to splash. But anyway, I didn't. But let's talk about open the doors on a date or for a female. What is your take on that? Because you're a millennial. So I'd be curious to hear what you think. Like, does Isaac, I'm putting you on the spot, Isaac, does Isaac open the door for you?
100%.
Like the car door?
Every door.
Okay.
If we are together, he opens every door.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because this is where I think we're in the minority.
I greatly appreciate it.
I do too.
To me, it speaks more. To me, it speaks more than if he thinks I do or do not need help with that. I could be carrying nothing, and he's still going to go before me and open the door for me.
See, and I love that. And that's what stood out to me too. And I've noticed it more frequently. And I did ask Mia about this because she's a Gen Zer, and she goes, I can open my own door. So it died somewhere, and I don't know where it died. And if that makes me old lady Andre, that's fine, because I think it's nice. I think and I have noticed that because, it's being a single girl in the world. There are people that don't, and I do notice it, and I don't know that I notice it all the time. Like I do, but I dismiss it. It's so much of a rarity that I have a couple of my guy friends that just like get in the car. But it's, there are a couple guys that I'm friends with that do open the door. Like no matter, even if like not necessarily a date, just opening the door. And I noticed that my uncle did that for my aunt. And, he also ordered, she would say, I'd like this, and he would place the order. Now that was them. And I asked him about it because I was curious. I was like, I kind of like that. What'd you do? He goes, I've just done that. She appreciates it. So he does it because she appreciates it.
100%.
And so that's what I thought was interesting. And I was curious as to whether or not that's a dying art and if people still appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because what I was hearing from people is that they're not really appreciating it anymore.
Well, there are two different views in the sense of, so when Isaac opens the door for me, it's not because he thinks I cannot open the door for myself. It's more of a care and respect.
Yes.
So, I know, and he enjoys opening the door for me. So I will actually, if I approach the door first, I will actually stop and wait, and then allow him to open the door or proceed before me. And that's like it's just an understood thing that we have. He doesn't. But
I think you attract attracts like, because I like that. I personally like that. And Cliff Young just commented on LinkedIn that if we don't teach our children kindness and chivalry, the world's going to continue downhill into a loveless society. Cliff, you are so spot on, and that is exactly why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same way. And it's not a matter of me, because you guys, I am all girl power all day long. I have 3 daughters. I am a black belt in karate. I am not this little weakling that cannot open the door. I pride myself on being strong and independent, and I am a don't need no man type of woman, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not appreciated. It doesn't mean that you can't show kindness and respect. And what's interesting is we, when people open the door, I just think it's a sign of respect. I really do.
Yeah.
And you reciprocate that. So we were going somewhere, and I don't even know where we were. So my friend Matt had opened the door. I got in the car. I always lean over and open the guy's door. That's just what I do. And that's a reciprocation of the kindness. And, the people that I've done that with are like, oh, that's cool. So I don't know if everybody does that. So apparently, because like my guy friends and everybody that I've done that, they're like, that's cool. And I'm like, oh, I don't know why somebody wouldn't do that back. If they're kind to you, you're kind back.
Right.
But I think Cliff makes a good point I'm fearful of the trend down if we're just leaving everybody to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me about the lack of kindness and the decline of chivalry, is it's letting everybody, it's basically like I'm all about you do you, but if you do you and you need me to help you, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like we're losing it a little bit as a society.
Yeah. Well, and we've made many strides in our community and in the world, many advancements. I do think that there is something to be said of looking back and seeing the fact that marriages of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they're still together.
Yep.
For a reason.
Yeah.
There are certain things that grounded in that history. There was just a different way of life that they did it, and they did it that way for a reason. And I feel like there is something to be said for those, we want to call it old ways.
Yep.
Of there's like, I don't know. I feel like there were less fights. A lot of the stuff that we have going on today.
I think it's respect.
Yeah.
Because here's one
we
thing.
Don't have it anymore.
Here's what we don't. And I know we've got Sam McElhaney on LinkedIn just said that she opens the door back to, I know you do, girl, because you're like me. You knew.
Yeah.
You know Sam. Our friend Sam is good.
Hey, Sam.
Because she's like us.
Yeah.
But I do think it's the minority. But here's some of it's respect. Is really what it's respect. If somebody is respectful enough to me to open the door, not because I need help, because they're just showing respect to me, I will absolutely show that back.
Yep.
I think that's normal. Now, for me, people are like, well, not all guys do that. But what's interesting, I'm not, and I kind of joked on Facebook. I'm like, that's my thing. Like you're not getting to date 2 without. I mean, but that's what I choose to surround myself with. If that's not your thing, totally cool. I get it. You're probably just not going to be in my little circle, because I demand respect and mutual respect and all that. And I do. I think what I'm saying, you're saying, Cliff commented on all kind of stuff. It's declining, and that makes me really sad. Yeah. And I think we can stop it, but we're going to have to point it out. We're going to have to let people know it's okay. So you guys, y'all feel free if you see me to open the door. Like, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to yell at you. Stop and help me if I'm broken. I may not let you help me if I'm broken down. I've got AAA. That's what I do. I outsource that.
I feel like we say that though, like going back to the elderly woman, and we're talking like 60s, 70s, 80s. If you see someone who needs help, but I feel like the children of the youth rush past them too, right? Like you can see, you can go to Kroger and stand in line and watch people and see how frustrated they get with the person in front of them taking too long, or right? Like we just rush past that.
Yep.
I feel like we don't even have respect for our elders anymore.
I totally agree. I 100% agree. Yeah. And that was why the lady at the airport, and she was older. She was tiny too, though, like teeny tiny. So I don't know what's going on. It's just, we've got to get back to just paying attention and being. Now, for me, I'm going to gravitate towards those people anyway. And I keep, me, I keep my circle really, really, really small. And actually, my friend Jessica said that the other night. We were talking about introverts and extroverts and everything. And she's like, you're actually the probably introvertedest extrovert ever. I'm like, I am, because like I'm out there, I'll do media, I'll do speaking all day long, but my people is really super small. Super small. But they're all people like this. They're all people that I really want
Yeah, well, sure is values. It comes down to sharing.
Yeah.
Sharing the same values.
Yeah, and it's just I love when I see that from other people. I'm sad for the kids because I did ask Mia about this. I said, "What do you think about, holding doors and all this?" She goes, "I don't care. I can open my own door." And it was an apathetic response, which I was a little mad. I don't know if she's listening right now because she's in class, but I was like, "Come on!" And to me, it's not about weakness. And this is what I want everybody to understand with chivalry and with all this. I am not saying that we need to go back to, because chivalry started because I went to the Google yesterday with the knights, because you were sending me memes of all kind of the knights. So chivalry started with the knights, but if you really look up what it was honor, it was respect.
Yeah.
Those were the whole principles that chivalry was founded on. And the history of it was for people that were, I don't want to say weaker, but not in the same position, not as strong. But that goes back to charity. That goes back to everything.
Well, and even the word, we could look up the word courting and where exactly that came from.
Yes.
But you court someone you want to date, but you also court them in friendship or court them because they're a human being and they're coming through the door and their hands are full and just hold it open.
It doesn't, I agree. And that's what I mean, because it doesn't have to be a dating thing. I know that's where it originated, but I went, for those of you guys not in Atlanta, we have a area town here called the Greenway. The Greenway is a long stretch where you can just walk and hike and do all kind of stuff. It's just flat. You can ride bikes. So a friend of mine called on Sunday and said, "Hey, I'm going to go for a walk on the Greenway. Do you want to go?" And you know me, being the exercise person that I am, I was like, "Oh, crap. Yes, I'll go." But I did. So we went for a walk, and this is a guy friend. And so we go for a walk, and this is not a date. It's just a friend, somebody I've known a long time. And so we start walking, and then all the bikes whip by on this trail. So we're walking, and I happen to be in the inside, and bikes were coming by us, and he just moved. He says, "Trade places with me." He goes, "I'd rather put you." It wasn't a date. It was just because he's a bigger guy than I am. It was safer for me to be away from the bikes whirling by us.
Yep.
That's not because I'm this weak little dainty flower. I've never been called a dainty flower before. No one's going to mistake me for that. But I thought it was super nice. I did. I was like, "Oh, thank you. I appreciate that." And I did. Yep. And then it got me, that was another one of the instances that got me thinking, because it was just second nature to him. He goes, "Why don't you walk on the inside?" I was like, "Okay." And I thought it was kind. I mean, that's really what it is. So when I looked up chivalry, it said included courage, honor, loyalty, justice, good manners, and generosity, especially those less fortunate than oneself. So less fortunate doesn't mean money. It doesn't mean it could mean any of those things. You never know.
That's good.
But these are things where I don't know. Maybe we should start a chivalry squad. I'm not saying we need to go back to the days of the gentleman callers stopping in the parlor in our mansion, because I saw that on Green Acres. You won't remember Green Acres.
I do know Green Acres.
No, not Green Acres. Not Green Acres. Beverly Hillbillies. Beverly Hillbillies, when they struck oil.
With the grandma
but they had
in the rocking chair.
Yes, they had a parlor, and that's where the gentleman callers. I'm not talking about we go back to that, or we go back to like Leave It to Beaver type of thing. I'm just saying, be nice.
Yeah.
One of the things, now there's one thing, and I'll say this because I have 3 daughters, and I'm curious on this. When I got engaged, my ex-husband did not ask my dad for permission, quote unquote, to ask for my hand in marriage. That's old school. Did Isaac ask your parents?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
100% without me knowing.
Okay, so Sean never did, because that wasn't, now he was not raised in the South, he was raised in the Midwest. So I don't know if this is still a thing.
And maybe that is, yeah.
So maybe it's a Southern thing. I was not happy. Like, I was mad about it. And I know my dad never said anything. But I know my dad. He's a Southern gentleman. He was not happy with it. And so I had this conversation with my daughter, my oldest, and she's in her 20s. And she's like, "I don't need any," I mean, she's not engaged or anything, but I was like, I would expect. And she goes, "It's my life. I don't need anybody's permission for her." And I'm like, "Oh, no, you didn't." But she did.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I that's another chivalry thing to me. Maybe I'm on the minority in this one too.
It's, again, and you can't take it as Isaac could have gone to my dad and said, I'm going to ask for your daughter's hand. My dad could have said no, and I could have said yes. Obviously, that's not what happened. We both said yes.
Right.
It's a respect for the fact that my father gave me life, thank you very much, of how I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for he and my mother.
Yes.
And he raised me for the first half of my life. Like, okay, maybe y'all don't want to hear this. 9 times out of 10, your father knows if the guy that you are dating and that is asking for your hand is worthy of such a thing.
I totally agree with that. And there was a running joke after it wasn't even after my divorce, after the one guy I dated for a long period of time after my divorce. We can't even say the word I used to describe him on there. But I had my dad and my brother were like, you don't get to pick anymore. We're going to pick for it. I mean, that's what, like, your friends and your dad know.
So
maybe that's what it is.
Clouded by the cupids in your eyes.
I know.
But it is a literally.
I think it's a respect thing, but I agree with you, though.
You're literally going to her father and saying, you've kept her alive for this long.
Yep.
And now I am asking you to trust me to do the same thing.
And I'm okay with it being, I'm the mom. I'm a single mom with 3 daughters. I'm okay with you coming to me. Just come to one. Actually, I'd rather whoever marries my girls, I'd rather them come to me. I feel like I'm going to be a better judge than their dad. No offense, Sean.
Could you just do both?
I'm just, man, sit us down. We get along. Safe. We get along great. Just sit us both down together and ask.
Did you guys see Lisa's comment on LinkedIn? She's like, it's not just the action of chivalry. It's also graciously receiving the kindness.
Lisa, I agree. I did not see that. Thank you. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was saying. Like, I'll give the kindness back, but you have to receive it. And that's where, Lisa, that you might have brought up a really good point, because I think that's what's stopping the younger generations. It's like, I don't need it. And do you need it? No, you don't. Can you open the door yourself? Uh-huh. Can you get married without permission? Yes, you can. But it's graciously receiving it because it's kind. It is nice. It is showing respect.
Yeah.
So what do we do? I mean, Lisa, that's a great point. What do we need to do to get the whippersnappers paying attention to this? Because I don't want it to be a dying art. I'm going to see, I will tell you, y'all watch. You'll see. I mean, we're not going to watch my dating life, but let's just see this. The people I do business with, the people I spend my time with, my guy friends, my girlfriends, dating, everything, they are 100% people that are like this, that are courteous, that are respectful, that are chivalrous, and that would receive the kindness and the chivalry. Yeah. That's just me. That's who I choose to be around. And I kind of was joking on Facebook the other day. You're not getting to date 2. You're not getting to date 1 without it for me.
Yeah.
But
okay, y'all. I'm on Instagram, so I'm sorry if I kill your IG handles. Hawk Driver 1 said it is appreciated, but it's just so unexpected now because it's not taught the way it was.
I agree. And he's a friend, so I know.
Okay, cool.
But here's the thing, I think you're a little bit younger than me, but military background, like very accomplished, so very. And I've met he and his wife, and super very polite. But I agree. It's just, you're spot on. I mean, people know what's right and wrong, don't you think?
Yes. Oh God. Okay. Kadahin, Katadhin @ okay. Just be kind. It's not that hard. Boom. I mean, show over.
We're gonna make it easy, John. Good.
So I have a question.
Sorry, I was trying to get your IG. No, that's all I can see.
Yeah, no, it's true. I know you can see. I can't.
Is that
even
a
see
last
those.
name?
Yeah. No. It's just making it complicated.
Okay.
But what's interesting, I want to hear from some of the young, because you guys are I would say y'all are agreeing with us for sure on all this, because you're definitely like that. You're the ones that are going to say, yep, this is it.
Do you guys think that the dating apps have changed that? More transactional thing? I personally do. I don't, and I've said this before on here. We've done a show on dating. We haven't aired it yet. Still trying to decide if we need to air that one. I do think it has.
Yeah.
Because it is transactional. It is made I personally do not do dating apps. I've never been on them. I have zero desire to be on them. And I think I do, if I'm going to be in the public and run a business, I don't want to be on them. Like, I've had this conversation before. We had this conversation on our dating show. We just don't We chose not to be on them. However, I do think it has made dating transactional, which takes the courting out of it. It takes the opportunity to get to know somebody completely off the table. You can't have conversations.
I had a thought. Yeah. Well, we said 2021 was the year of ruffling feathers.
Yes. Ruffle some feathers, girly.
Sometimes when you're on a dating app, I'm not saying this is everybody. So again, don't at me. The result out of that is also transactional. So the meeting is transactional, where I swiped left or swiped right.
You talk about the hookup. Go ahead and say it, Whitney.
Don't beat around the bush. About. They're not looking for a long-term commitment.
I think maybe in some cases. I don't know.
Right, exactly.
But I would, which is part of the reason I don't, and I will flat out say that is not my thing. And so, and if it's your thing, girl, boy, go for it.
That's you.
That's you do you, and I will support you all day long. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yes.
But I think that raises the point is if that's what they're, now, does that mean that you can't swipe? I don't know which way you swipe, whichever way you swipe to swipe, yes.
I think right's yes.
Does that mean you can't swipe right and, still build a relationship and be chivalrous? No.
Right.
But it just, you've got to, I think what you get is what you're going to demand. I'm going to demand respect from anybody that's in my circle, from anybody that I spend time with, from anybody. Now, demand sounds like a strong word, so maybe I should say I'm going to expect it. And if the person doesn't show it, okay, they're just not my person.
Yeah.
I love Sam's comment. She's like, dating on an app sucks. And then Lynn says, I think if you state what you want, it filters a lot of the nonsense.
I think that's a great point, because I'm extremely upfront, which is probably why I don't date. But I'm extremely upfront.
Yeah.
It's, I just say, here's what I am. But here, it's also your confidence in yourself. Yep. Because, for me, I'm 1,000,000% fine being single, being on my own, raising my girls. Somebody is going to have to complement that. And that's what dating and now it's different, I think, at my age than when you're in your 20s or 30s, but dating should be about getting to know each other and doing all that. The chivalry comes in as an amount or a show of respect. That can come anywhere. You should be chivalrous to your mom. If you're not opening the door for your mama, let's just start there. Because if you're not opening the door for your mom, who birthed you, shame on you. I'm going to call you all out.
Yep.
I want to know I want you to start tagging people who aren't opening the door for their mamas, and we will have that discussion. Because all the guys I know, like they are mama's boys all day. They are so respectful to their mom. They open the doors. They call and check on. I mean, it's cute. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And then Sam says, I want to say up front, I am speaking in general, but people lie.
Sam.
That's good.
I know. People do lie. I do. I think that. But here's the thing. They can only lie for so long.
Yeah.
And this is part of where I think your point about having shorter conversations and not getting into any depth. This is why people are surprised that my circle is so small.
Yep.
Because I'll talk on air and I'll do all that stuff. I like real conversations. I hate small talk. I want to talk about stuff of substance and of depth.
Yep.
And so I don't talk to a lot of people. If I go to I hate networking events. If I go to a networking event, if I go to a big event, I'm not talking to a lot. I'm talking to the people I know, because they're the ones that I'll have real conversations with.
Yeah.
I mean, like I talk with, my circle's small. I mean, like if I'm talking with my friend Jessica or Lynn or, any of my friends that are Lynn, Lisa, Matt, all this, we talk about real stuff.
Yep.
And it's not just surfacey, but that's why I have relationships with them, because they're real people. They're not lying, and you can't get the lies. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking back to Isaac and I before we were dating. We met at work.
Scandalous.
It was broke our no dating in the workplace rule. But we were friends before, like legit friends. Like we were both dating other people, and so he and I were friends prior. And we had a work Christmas luncheon or something, and it was pouring down rain that day. And he literally had an umbrella, covered me all the way down to the car, covered me when I got in, and then walked. And I feel like,
and you're like, I'm gonna marry this boy. That sounds like a country song.
But I feel like you did that for the other women there, Isaac.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one.
Okay.
He did that for everyone.
But you appreciate it. And that's one of the things Lisa had said on LinkedIn was it's not just the action of that, it's graciously receiving that.
Exactly.
So you probably, I would assume, appreciated that in him.
Did.
And that's how I am.
I didn't want to get rained on.
You don't want to get rained on. I mean, some days it's fine. But it's the act of kindness. It's the act of chivalry. And I know I've used those terms interchangeably a little bit today, but that's where it starts. And that's what is scaring me to death about the younger generations. Because I do know a lot of friends who have taught their sons to be, my friend Mary Therese actually had commented on my Facebook post the other day and said that she has a teenage son and said that, they've taught him that way. And he's had trouble as a teen finding girls that appreciate that. And that scares me for him. Because, if they've done a great job with him raising him, so everybody that's got teenage boys, Mary Teresa's got a teenage boy. A lot of my friends, I have all girls. Matt's got a son. Raise your boys to do this. And because here's the thing, they will attract the people that respect that. They will attract the people that appreciate and will honor that.
They will.
And then that's how we grow it.
Yeah.
If they stop doing it because they're afraid people aren't reciprocating, then that gets scary.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a precursor to so much more into that relationship. Again, be it a dating relationship or a friendship, where if you're doing that for me, then there are other things that you're going to do, like when you're speaking, I'm going to allow you to speak. And I'm not going to try to talk over you. That is applicable in any relationship. And I feel like if you are, allowing that person, if you're being helpful when you can and when others will allow it, then that points to the fact that is a value for you in any relationship.
I agree. I 100% agree, because at the end of the day, it's each of our choices. I say this all the time. You do you, and I say frequently control the controllables.
Yep.
We don't have control over how people receive what we do or say.
Yeah.
So if I open the door for you and you're like, I can open my own door, that's on you. That's not on me.
Okay.
I'm still going to keep opening the door because that's me. That's what I do. So that's kind of what I really want to push people, because I know you guys that are in your 30s, 40s, no offense, Isaac, but late 30s, no offense, both of you, leaving you out of it, late 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. You guys, most of you were raised like this, especially my little Southern friends here. We were all raised like this. We were yes ma'am and no ma'am. And my kids hate the yes ma'am, no ma'am thing, because they weren't raised in the South. I mean, we live here now. When we moved here and everybody was like, yes ma'am, yes sir, my kids were like, what are they doing? Because they didn't do that up north. Yeah. So I'm not saying you have to go that far. I'm just saying do you, and just think about, am I showing kindness?
Yeah.
Am I striving to be a better person? And I'm not saying it's to people less fortunate than you. I want you to do, if you see Elon Musk walk into a building behind you, hold the door for him. He's not poor. He's not doing worse than you financially, but still, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Have a cool conversation with him. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
that would be.
Elon, you can walk in the door behind me. I'll hold it open for you.
We hear about stories like that all the time, of like where somebody didn't recognize that they were interacting with a celebrity, and then they, got to have like some really cool experience.
It's interesting. I mean, it's a great conversation. We may have to pick back up, and I think we may have to do the dating app one, because Sam McElhaney here,
I know.
LinkedIn is saying that there's a lot of people that use the apps as a lie and show you she can show you thousands of frauds who claim they want a relationship and introduce you to their red room. Oh my gosh, Sam!
It's true.
Again, why I'm not on.
Because they think when they get you in the restaurant that they can convince you.
The red room is not of the restaurant. I can assure you. There's some movies I'm gonna have to tell you to watch.
They think when they get you to the restaurant that they can convince you to.
But
go
I
to
think
their
here's
red room.
here's the thing.
Even though you said
Here's the thing
on your profile.
It's the thing. You control. You do you. You can. Yeah. Lynn just come in and said this is so. You do you. Right. You can control you. If you want to be on the dating apps, weed them out. If they end up being a liar, kick them to the curb. There's nothing saying you got to stay. Yeah. I just choose differently. The relationships I'm in or end it's different. It's not. I'm not a dating app person. Never will be. But it's not a chance. But Sam, we're going to have you on to talk about dating apps.
Yes.
It seems like you're the resident expert here.
Yes.
So I appreciate that.
I'd love that.
I appreciate that. But here's my thoughts for everybody as we close. And Whitney, thank you very much for chiming in and being the voice of the younger generation. I'm going to put you in charge of all the millennials.
Okay.
I've declared it. But for the rest of you guys, let's practice kindness. Let's find ways to help, to be kind, to show generosity, and to be chivalrous. Allow it to happen, because I will assure you, really good things happen, and you will find people who genuinely care and who are genuinely good people. So that's what I want for you guys. So give it a try. Let us know your thoughts. Drop us some comments. Share, and keep following us. We will see you again next Tuesday for another edition of Renew. Have a good week.